Молодой представлен. Когда как говорится, это самое, злой и молодой. Жены нет, я теперь буду. Не благодарю. Allegro serioso. Это 61, 61. Мне 60. Ну, почти уже. Тут уже не тоже. Вообще никак. Вообще. Почему такая концовка танцующая? Вот она. Почему странички не конечницы? 8. Там еще не 58. 49. 60. Ну, уже что-то похоже. Надо перепроверить, что значит. Что-то сейчас. Очень много. Можно получить YouTube даже. Да, да, такие вещи. Ну, это ты. Ну, ладно, ладно. Сейчас. Да. Вот он. Так надо. Такой умный висит, такой висит. В принципе, да, да. Вот, да. Да. Вот ты говорил. Да нет, уж наверное, понимаешь, да. Ладно. Да, да. Да, да. Да, да, вот. Все. Школа. Да. remote. 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 Ah. Нет, чем мне туда такая температура? Вот это его самое. Ну да.
"99% of artists will never get more than 1,000 streams. Why? Their melodies and chord progressions are horrible." If you are learning about pausing technique or forearm rotation or something that is related to those things about technique, make sure that you watch this video until the end so that you are going to learn about how to avoid those very common mistakes that probably you are doing. The first mistake is about twisting whenever you are doing forearm rotation, meaning that you are trying to use the forearm rotation, but while doing that, you are turning your wrist towards yourself or even away from yourself. But the most common way is to twist your wrist towards your body, which is also called as ulnar deviation. And the problem of the ulnar deviation is that whenever you do too much of this positioning, which is the ulnar deviation, you are going to lock yourself from doing the forearm rotation, meaning that by using this position, which is a way of doing the twisting, you are going to have so much tension here in the forearm that you are going to end up without being able to use the forearm rotation properly, and you are also going to end up with a locked positioning with your fingers, because when you have this position, you are not able to move your fingers as you would in a straight position here with your forearm, wrist, and hands. So for that reason, whenever you are doing the forearm rotation, let's say that you are going to do something like this. Make sure that you are thinking about letting your wrist come a little bit in the direction of the forearm rotation, but more importantly, think more about going away from your body instead of thinking about going towards your body.
is up, guys? It's Simon from pianopig.com, and if you're new to the channel, I teach jazz, blues, and neo-soul piano, and my goal is to help you become the best player you can possibly be in the most efficient way possible. So the other day, I was watching one of Jacob Collier's Tiny Desk performances, and I've watched it a bunch of times, and it honestly just blows my mind. So, Jacob, if you're watching this, bloody good stuff. Anyway, in the last tune he performed, He Won't Hold Me, the progression, the harmony, the movement, all of it is just unbelievably beautiful, and I wanted to break it down and show you what's going on. And if you enjoy this and get value from all the other videos on my channel, then have a think about joining me inside the Piano Pig Academy, where you can get access to all of my exclusive courses, a private community, live Q&A sessions, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff to help you on your piano journey. And at the time of making this video, we're actually offering the first month for just $1. So click the link in the description and hopefully I'll see you there. But for now, let's head over to the piano and learn this beautiful Jacob Collier progression. Let's start by having a quick listen to Jacob perform this progression. I've been feeling down and out, baby, since you left me. It's been so long since your body held me. It really gets me, that one. Whew. Anyway, let's have a look at what's happening. In the key of C major, this is how it sounds. So it's quite a gospel-y kind of progression, and the inner movement is just lovely. So we start with this, an A minor 7. Nice and simple with lots of space. We've got the root, flat 7, and flat 3. We then move to this. Now, this is actually just a straight G major. See, if I move this B up an octave, you can see it's just a G major triad, except that he's kept the B in the bass, playing the G in its first inversion, which then creates this lovely movement between the bass and melody. It's moving together in tenths, and at the same time, we've got this note G in the middle, which doesn't change, which keeps some stability and just sounds beautiful. So we've got an A minor 7 to a G major, and then we come to here, which gives us a C major, root, 5, and 3. And this keeps that lovely 10th interval between the bass and melody, whilst continuing to keep that middle G the same. It's actually very simple, but also very creative, and sometimes the most beautiful music is simple. And we finish this first phrase by landing on an F major. So this is the voicing I'm playing for this F. I've got the root, 5, 9, and then the 3, 5, 13, 7, and 9 again up at the top. I don't know if Jacob uses this voicing for the F, but I quite like it. So all together. And then we've got this. And what a way to answer that first phrase. A lovely example of call and response. So what have we got going on there? Well, we start with this. This is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. We've got the root, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, and also the flat 3 in the bass, which means we're playing this chord in its first inversion. We follow this with a G7 sus. We've got the root, 7, 9, and 11, and this resolves very nicely into a C major. And for this voicing, I'm playing the root, 5, and 9 in the left hand, with the 3, 5, 6, and root again up at the top for the melody. And that's the progression, a real pleasure for the ears to listen to. So the real bare bones of this, just the melody and bass, sounds like this. I mean, that alone is quite special. And when we fit it in with all those beautiful harmonies, that is really something. And you could play around with those voicings and fill them out a bit. Just make sure to keep the melody and the bass the same. And that's it for this video, guys. I just had a real urge to share this progression because it's really been blowing my mind with its simplicity and depth. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell icon so you don't miss out on any new content, and I will see you next time. Surprise. Dominic and I both have a teacher called J.S. Bark, and if you play eight measures of dark, I think you're surprised. Every time, and the next 8 bars, and the next 8 bars. So composition is really about surprise. It's not about theory for me, it's just an instinct that I have. The song you mentioned is also 3/4 time, yeah.
Yeah,
It's very old-fashioned. We've got a lot of dual roles to it. It's not military, but there's something about rules that I'm a sucker for, except which I adore. And I just have fun with that stuff. I'm not here to belong to a genre or adapt myself to any kind of rules. I just do what I instinctively feel I want to do. And I'm lucky to have that opportunity and the privilege to do that. I'm also helped by some fantastic musicians who feel the same way, exploring the whole spectrum of music and not just saying we're in this ghetto here. They're not. They play everything, jazz, classical, pop, soul. So we look at this for these ideas that when you were starting to write a song, you start with the instrumental demo. Look at the process of how you actually craft a melody and sing a lyric.
Мне осталось один жизнь, бориться, этого болеть. Мне надо вернуть, и мне все. Семейство болит. Когда потом я почувствовала, у меня на голове шишка вот здесь. Я подумала, рак, откуда?
Давай быстрее запрыгивай.
У тебя там штраф на лобовухе.
Потом штраф оплатишь. Давай спешим.
Куда спешим-то?
На дело едем. Сейчас узнаешь. Пристегивайся.
Ну что, ты готов? Мы приехали в глухомань, где живут только немецкие миссионеры, и нас никто не услышит. Держи твой инструмент, он тебе пригодится. Погнали, скоро все узнаешь. Мы должны успеть до заката. Смотри, мы успели до заката. Надеюсь, мы еще его застанем. Ну, с Богом. Так далее. Веди себя тихо. Свет горит. Значит, мы здесь не одни. Смотри под ноги. Может произойти все, что угодно. Так, где он? Слишком тихо, подозрительно тихо, тебе не кажется? Смотри, смотри, смотри. Что это было? Смотри, смотри. Подожди, я знаю, это нужно сказать кодовое слово. Вита Бревис. Вита Бревис. О, все нормально, нас пропускают. Вот он ты где спрятался. Это органный маньяк, за которым я охотился все это время. И он здесь. Здравствуй. Наконец-то мы можем показать людям твою обитель, твое великое искусство, твое мастерство. Спаться? Что? Для начала. Давай сразу. Вот сразу зажги. Покажи, как надо. Давай, бомбани. Ну-ка. Погоди. Давай для зрителей сразу душевное что-то, вот наше такое. Вот что все знают прям. Давай. Давай что-то вот очень знакомое. Родное. Как думаешь, это сейчас было богохульство? Можно расценить как богохульство? С чего? Ну, в католической церкви это было богохульство, а в протестантской нет. В католической нет. Музыка. Все поняли, это музыка, это искусство, и поэтому все прекрасно. Звучало же мощно. Да, Бах бы просто сейчас перевернулся. Ну, вот до Баха мы дойдем, правильно? Дойдем. Давай разложим орган. То есть нам нужно буквально за короткое время все, что ты выучил в 2 консерваториях, все вот это в 20 минут. Окей? В 10, да. Смотри, у нас есть ящик огромный, с трубами. Вон трубы видно? Давай, прямо разложи. В общем, вот это вот орган. Сейчас немножко попробую быстро объяснить, как он работает. Есть меха, на котором накачивается воздух. Давай посмотрим. Пойдем на меха сразу.
Представь себе, ты отучился в консерватории, бац, и все, понимает он тебя. Не смешно. Да. То есть вот тебе тест, просто ты это представь и поймешь, что тебе надо и не надо. Да, то есть как бы. Это я, конечно, так, да, понимаю. Лишь бы какая-то что-то было бы, лишь бы, да, понимаешь. Хорошо, ну общество ты ориентируешься, ну и что дальше, да. Ну тебе как в жизни прославиться и как бы что-то сделать хорошее. Для себя, правильно, ну я про мужиков говорю. Я для женщин, я всегда, для меня это да. Женщина как бы сама себе зло делает, если она где-то что-то, да. Каждый же, ну да, успех, там, да, наоборот, это, да. Любой женский успех – это проклятие, понимаешь, для всего рода человеческого, простите за выражение, конечно, для всей жизни, понимаете. Ну, не для нее, конечно. Ну, меня это не касается, ну, ты же сами. Вот это и не выгуляется. Ну да. Наоборот. Наверное, старина понимает.
Меха органа. Хочешь посмотреть меха органа? О, они лежат прямо внутри органа и занимают практически четверть всего инструмента. Пусть поболтает, пока которые не ходят туда-сюда. Да, воздух внутри, да. Как аккордеон такой огромный. Ну, что-то близкое. Сверху лежат камни, которые добавляют вес специально, чтобы мех сдувался. Если эти камни убрать, то мех сдуваться не будет. Или у него будет неправильное давление в воздухе. И тогда, когда церковь чистят 2 раза в год, эти камни могут выкинуть, и поэтому специально заворачивают в газеты или в бумагу, чтобы специально люди знали, что выкидывать не надо, а то ничего работать не будет. Здесь обычная речья кожа, руками мятая. Когда здесь падает солнце с утра, она трескается, вот этой кожи уже 130 лет, вот это новое, буквально 3 года назад реставрировали. Вот, и я сейчас сыграю аккорд, посмотрим, что будет, если мотор выключить. Насколько хватит? Давай. Сейчас играем. Сейчас будет сдуваться меха. Мелкий мех. Послушали смерть органа. Сдулся ты, да? То есть он отключил сейчас электрический мотор, если не все поняли, и без мотора электрического, который качает меха, да, они сдулись и все. Да, только воздуха нет. А до электрического мотора. Давай покажем, как качали меха. В принципе, моторы появились в органах буквально меньше 100 лет назад, и до этого эти органы столетиями звучали. В каждом органе есть такая специальная комната церковного фитнеса. Маленькая спортивная комната, в которую загоняли... Такие, как я. Пойдем за мной. И платили небольшую копеечку за то, чтобы они качали воздух. Вот сейчас пойдешь качать воздух. Ты мне заплатишь? О, так. Вот она. Тут есть 2 большие педали. Они вот как раз под мехом в самый низ. И одна педаль качает один мех, другая другой. Но надо качать аккуратно, потому что педали ходят достаточно легко, и не надо ударять ими сильно в пол. Для этого есть ручка. Надо практически висеть на ней, подтягиваться и качать аккуратно, не ударяя педалями в пол. Здесь есть специальная шкала, которая показывает, насколько воздух уже накачан. И когда качаешь, она поднимается вверх. Перекачать больше, чем нацарапано, лучше не качать. Качай. Потому что тогда будешь качать только один мех, будет качаться медленнее. Качай лучше. Слушай, а если перекачать, то лопнуть? Ну, если сильно перекачать, то где-нибудь может треснуть. Понятно. Поэтому качай аккуратно. Буду качать аккуратно. Иногда проповеди в церкви шли долго, особенно раньше, еще дольше. И чтобы полчаса проповеди тебе не качать зазря, был специальный сигнал. Сейчас ты его услышишь, когда надо начать качать. Заходи. Захожу. Сейчас наконец-то фитнесом займусь. Эй! Закрыли меня. Так, смотри. Пока не качать. Что, завидуешь мне? Видишь, до чего я даже качаю меха органа. Опа, надо качать. Погоди. Ну, смотри. Пошло. че?
Плохо хотел, говорит.
Ты бы и так не смог.
Не знаю, слышал ты или нет, но когда играть один аккорд, прямо слышно вибрации воздуха звуки. Когда ты качаешь, вот ногой качаешь, прямо воздух идет на воздуховоду с той силой, с которой ты его качал, и в аккорде слышно. То есть орган смехом ногами звучит живее, чем с мотором.
Ну, как всегда, более механическое, оно
Но
звучит лучше, чем
как
электрическое.
натуральнее, и воздух идет именно как будто вот человек дышит. Он идет не прямо так, а вот, то больше, то меньше. Поэтому любители большие настоящего органного звука специально иногда выключают мотор, потому что кого-то именно что качали равномерно, тогда звук живее.
Но это получается, что должна быть еще некая связь между тем, кто качает, и кто играет, чтобы...
Ой, мой любимый приезжал, и теперь нахрен отсюда. Когда нужна была, там не подходила, все, до свидания. Ладно, думаю, что делать дальше. А дальше, ну, этот полтормист родины, тут уже довольно безопасно, может быть, в своем компасе. Слушай, аж ты знал, что правильно, фактически такого быть не может. Это же сюжетный квестовый предмет. Я думаю, на этом из Дюкарена, чтобы додуматься повесить на квестовые предметы, ну, какой-то трек, не знаю.
Они чувствовали друг друга.
И кто должен качать хорошо, не так, как ты.
Ну, так и знал.
Бери. 15, 15, 15, 15. Чего? Жуешь. Жуешь. Нет, это ну, Слепчанский. Слепчанский. Что с ним?
You want an emotional melody? I got you. You want a dark melody? I got you.
Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Decided the Piano Teacher. My name is Ellen. Today we are going to talk about forearm finger grouping. Grouping is like the motivated groups that we can use our forearm and finger movement to facilitate our playing. There are some good benefits of using this forearm finger grouping.
Настоящий рок изобилия в Черную пятницу на Озон. Успейте купить только с 26 ноября. Конструктор Лего Классик за 890 рублей. Покупайте с 26 по 28 ноября.
Will have not you will lose the illusion of a line. So the same thing when we play a scale and we do or anything doesn't have to be a scale. If I do the between this and this, so see, I don't practice. So if I go, even if I play very regularly every note, the space between the note is going to say, well, this is not regular. So what happens when it's irregular? You lose the illusion of the line, because it's an illusion to think that the piano is playing connected. When we play the piano, there is no connection between the notes. You have the hammer, like I said before, the hammer hits the string and says goodbye. Okay? So you are responsible for what's happening, the space, and how actually you are mentally, orally, emotionally or expressively, and physically, how you go between one finger to another. Now, we learn, I think that most of you know that if you keep your finger in the key, it doesn't make any difference. So if anybody pushes, and if I go, I learned to control this, but if I keep pushing a note, the sound is the piano says, I'm out of here. Anyway, so the problem with pushing is that if you push one finger, you don't have the connection or the anticipation for the next finger. So the attack, as I was telling you before, the attack, you control that the sound, which is the attack of the finger, by the speed and the depth of your muscle. Once your sound is there, it's up to you, just like a singer when they say, how do they are done with this, right? So it comes, you have to have something physically that will make you feel that you connect to another. Feel, but the many people, we all feel connection, but we also have to physically create a connection. Whatever it's between the fingers, or it's by moving the wrist so that we have, or much bigger from the breathing and from the whole arm business, right? So that we create a gesture of putting 5, 6, 7 notes, 10 notes, 100 notes, so one after another, and we create a line. We give the illusion of a line, okay? So in order to do that, I was going, there's the fourth and the fifth finger that are playing like this, so that if you play with a different kind of tension and depth, because your tendon actually has to do like this. For me, the first thing that has to happen when you move on the keyboard left and right is to bring your fourth and fifth finger aligned with your key, so that if I play, which happened with the like Schumann, right? So also believe that we have to work on the muscles of the that are between. It's not. This is another thing in your hand. This is not the muscle of the finger. This is the what I call the sideboard of the hand, right? So you have a muscle, actually, also a reason why when your thumb is locked, you're locking the whole contour of your hand, right? Because the muscles here is connected by a big tendon here that goes all the way around, okay? So that's why for me, the really to think of the hand as a platform, then the fingers can do whatever they need to do because they are supported. The first exercise that I give to learn to isolate the muscles that are here is this. So you will have the natural weight, so your wrist will be straight and stable and no up, no down, right? So no river, no mountain, so that the flow comes, from here all the way. And so, of course, sometimes we're going to use the wrist when we need to bounce. But when you really want everything to go to the fingers, you're not going to lock anything this way or this way because it gets stuck here. Right? The same way a singer has to open somehow the neck, doesn't have to be like this, right? So that everything can come out this way. So lately, for me, the image of everything comes here when I talk, everything comes here. When I go to my instrument, everything goes here, right? So there's really, you have to feel like a current. So it's like, it's your voice, right? The piano, the fingers are becoming your voice. With the piano, right? But it's you have much more control of the instrument, and you need more because this is not going to move. So you have to adapt all of yourself so that you can connect with the instrument, and so that there's a natural flow from here all the way to the fingers. So to go to this exercise, I realized that because of different reasons, I don't have a problem feeling my finger as one unit. Whatever position you give any angle in your fingers, you have to feel that your finger is actually one unit. So that I realized that when I gave this exercise, that this doesn't seem like an exercise, but you learn to isolate really underneath here the muscle. And so this is the only tension that you're going to have in this exercise. So this is going to be stable, not locked, right? There's nothing in piano playing except sometimes when you have to play extremely loud and fast. Then I think that there's something that we may lock so that we can vibrate. But generally, I don't believe in locking, but I do believe that stabilizing and be aware of a stabilization of a finger, first of all, because I think this is the end, if you want, but I think we have to begin with that, so that if this is solid and the finger are responsible to stay stable, then everything else can come. Most of the time when I see someone doing this, it's because whatever the emotional, the good tension that one would like to, transfer to the instrument gets stuck here. Why? Because this is not solid. So that when you lock somewhere, that means that there's a weakness somewhere else. So often, the same thing with the thumb. How many times did I hear when I was young, relax your thumb? Well, how can I relax my thumb if everything is based on it, right? So when you play your fourth finger, often you're going to see people, maybe some of you, when you play your fourth finger, someone's going to go like this. Why? Because the muscle that supports the fourth finger is weak, or is not. The hand is not aware of it, right? So you also have to know that all of your hands have their own, and the fingers have their own intelligence, and you have to trust this, so that they all have the tip of the fingers, there's a lot of nerve endings. So this is very helpful to actually feel that anybody, can you put your hands in front of you? And what do you feel? No, just relax, right? Just so, can you feel the tip of your fingers? Really the tip, right? So this is the first awareness that you have to somehow develop without touching anything. Because when you go to the keyboard, the sense of touch is something that's it's not for me, it's not a finally when everything is set muscularly and the way, it's the touch of the finger that will give you somehow will be a big part of the sound that you're going to create. It's not the playing, it's a further touch. When you think, depending on also what kind of music you're playing, but in general, your fingers will always feel much more comfortable if they touch the key, even if you play a melody. So the direction, the idea of bringing the finger where they have to be, so that the finger can touch the key before it plays. It will add something totally personal, because we all have different touch, different finger, the same way we all have different voice. Okay? So the sound, if I ask you to come here, you will all sound different. But the more you're going to be in control or with a lot of awareness of your body, will you say, okay, this is my sound. This is because this is my voice. Right? So to go back to the hand, this is the first exercise. So you will see that the natural weight of all the exercise to develop the more awareness and more feeling of these muscles here, so that are all based little by little on adding natural weight. What I mean by natural weight is the weight of here, for example, is going to be on this muscle, right? So if I do fifth finger, so and all the other fingers, so independently you can do that. Now, what I was realizing in the last few years is that when students, even this exercise, many students' fingers collapse, right? So it's due to some of you, some of them, some of us have what we call double joint, right? This is something that, because I don't have it myself, I'm not so sure exactly how one can go through the finger, because the double joint often happens here. The double joint here is not so important, but the one in the middle, it's connected also, because once you collapse this, or I see some of them have the finger inside. Anybody here knows if they are double joint? But anyway, so the other thing that you should know about the hands and the fingers, in order to get to the tip of the finger, because this is our goal, right? Is that I always thought, again, wrongly, that we had the tendon from here, and then it was becoming muscle. Wrong. We have the muscle, the tendon. We have a tendon until this articulation, right? And then from here, there's another one that goes here. So this is why a lot of the time, naturally, people will do this instead of this, because the tendon actually has to go to there's an extra one. So again, if you look in an anatomy book, or on the web, there's plenty of stuff. You can see exactly how your finger is actually made, right? So so you have this long tendon. So we have to be very careful, because I don't think that we were born to play the piano. I don't think that physically, right? Because there's something very awkward. The thumb should have had a special, because we have a thumb basically to do that, right? To grab. That's why we have a thumb. That's why this muscle is so important. So when the piano should have had keys like this. There's no other. Not only the piano doesn't move, right? So we have to adapt every single time. I'm going to come about soon on that. The other thing is that it's the only thing in life that I know of where the thumb and maybe an organ is the same. I mean, keyboard. The thumb is asked to do the same thing as the other fingers. Right? When you play the violin, you have your thumb supporting your instrument. Play anything in life, right? So it's a position that not only the thumb has a whole history by itself on the keyboard. For a long time, people were not using the thumb because that wasn't, so they would play only, right? So this was when the harpsichord, you had very small instruments, so there was no question of distance. Then people began to use, the thumb for chords and things like that. But for many, many years, until some people, even until today, they won't use the thumb on the black key, which is understandable because if you don't think as your hand is one unit, right? So to go with the thumb on the black key, there's a lot of things that physically you have to do in order to actually move on the keyboard. So for example, there's a difference in your bicep if you're on a white key and if you go with your thumb on the black key. There's a small movement and you have to go up a little bit, right? So this has to be, again, it's not something that you have to put in a square and say, okay, this is this and this is this. No, but it means that when you're on the key, when you're playing, and you have to play on a black key with your thumb, because from Beethoven and certainly Chopin, they all use some of the black keys. I mean, so but there are still some. I remember when I got my first job in New Mexico. I had many students who came and they looked at me like I was a witch. That I would ask them to give them fingering so that the thumb would be on the black key. It's like, oh no. I mean, can't do that. So I had I was sort of putting a note in my door saying, in this studio you can put your thumb on the black key. But so it's a completely different technique of but you have to, especially with the music of today. Thumb goes everywhere, but it has to be again the concept of the hand, and so you have to be aware in many instances that the thumb is actually short in relation to the other fingers. For example, when you do what I call a shift, and so if you do fast, I don't know if any of you can see, but when you go, I'll show you with the left hand. When you do this, right? Most of the time you will find much easier to play your thumb at the edge of the key of the keyboard. Why? Because when you have to go left, right with you, right? My thumb is also able to release. If I play my thumb here, so if I play, I'm stuck there. So the idea so I can release my thumb and my third finger, fourth finger, second finger, anything that would come after will play so that you respect this about distance between the thumb. So the thumb will be here and naturally unless you have extremely long fingers, but then even more, you will place, you see, you don't have to do anything. It will be a totally only horizontal motion. No, none of this. But if you play your thumb in the middle, you will have to cross over, right? Which for me works very well when you play slowly. So this is why when you work on something and it's a slow thing, this doesn't matter because you have plenty of time to do this and to reset after. The problem is not to cross. The problem is when you have something that goes like this. If you do this, then you have to reset. So the problem will be the next note because you won't be in alignment. But with the fourth finger and the fifth finger, so for example, when you do this, I personally would never play. I would always play so that my fourth and fifth finger are aligned here and aligned with the key. So I have much more chance of having them play with the same sound as the other fingers, and my thumb is not going to go. If I do immediately when if my fourth finger is weak, that means if I didn't work on this, my thumb is going to go like this. So it's going to create a total chaos for a very short time in the hand. Right? So that's why for me I don't like chaos. In once I'm the keyboard, I want so that my ear, my brain, my whatever I want to express, so that my fingers are there and there's no chaos. Because when there's physical chaos, everything it's very difficult to sustain anything. So that would be for the finger. So you have to learn to stabilize or to feel. I don't think that the position of the finger. Some people play with finger like very very curved. Some people play with finger more open. I think that you will all find the natural. But the thing is that once you are in a position, you should be able to move the finger from here and a little bit from here, but with feeling the support that there's really a whole thing here that's going to support wherever they go, so that you can then bypass this and go and touch here. Okay, so that's for the fingers and the hand. So you have, for me, there's a lot of work, but I have to tell you that I know, for example, the exercise for the thumb is to really massage and become aware of the muscles that's going from here to the third finger. For some people, it goes a little bit further than the third finger, that even if it's attached to the bone. So everyone, again, every hand is different, but the basis of this is, so if you really feel this muscle, you will be able that you can open your hand, and that you can, so you will feel the opening, little by little. It's almost like and then you will feel also when you do this with your thumb, you're actually going to open your hand, and you're going to feel the connection between this. So this again it comes with spending time and being aware, becoming aware of knowing how your hand is, and how you can stabilize the fingers one at a time, and how you're gonna when you play something, that the fingers, that for me it makes life so much easier, because the fourth and fifth finger don't feel at all like weak fingers, like many people are going to tell you that there's nothing you can do. Yes, you can work on this, and you can also work on your thumb, so that when the fourth finger plays, it doesn't take all the power. That's the main problem with the thumb. So, but you see, the thumb, like I was telling you before, the thumb should have had a keyboard here and being able to play here. That would have been the natural, right? So it's like when you grab something, you grip something, the thumb is opposite, right? Piano is something completely different. So there's not really anything in any movement in life when we actually learn to have the hand as five, not five people, but five, so that's a unit, right? So the strength is here. Okay, so we go, for me, I'm telling you from here because it's easier, and also it's more important to really make sure that this works. Now, what do we have after the hand? The wrist. Okay. Now, the wrist is something, again, that I believe that should never be locked, right? But you should be able to be stable, so that whatever you want to play, you will be able to stabilize it whenever necessary, or use it if you need to go left and right. Now, one of the ways for me to use, like, if I do something, an arpeggio, this is another thing that I see a lot. When you play chords, okay, no choice. You have to form. You have to have everything in between the fingers. But when you play arpeggios, it's one note at a time. So if I play something like this, so when people say, "Oh, it's this," it's not. It's this, and you're going to begin to move from your wrist, from your elbow, from your upper arm, so that you don't have to do to keep, right? So when you play an arpeggio, like if I this, right? So I'm going to have my third finger aligned with the G, and then I'm going right? So that's when the wrist becomes extremely useful horizontally. Okay, so that if I need to go like just this, or so to have these two fingers in front of the key, and never keep, unless it's a chord, never keep 1 and 2 when you play these fingers. So for me, there is no reaching. There's no because the fingers should always be brought wherever they need to be, by the wrist, by the elbow, by the pectoral muscle, by the back. Okay, so that if I need to go here, right? If I play the first stroke, I need to. Again, if I was like this, I wouldn't have to go here, but I would use the wrist because my shoulder would be here, so I wouldn't have to calculate so that this is all here the same way as it is here. So the wrist, but the wrist often is going to work with the elbow. Now, what happens after the elbow? What moves the elbow? How do you move your elbow left and right? No, the one thing you in your movement, you're going this way. Keyboard is flat. Another problem on the piano, right? So if I'm going here, the easiest way to, for example, when you play this, right? There's not so much the notes, but it's the fact that my elbow is going to stay at the same level, right? So what do I move in order to do that? Because again, we have to deal with this, right? So what do you move? Yes, you move your pectoral muscle and your back, right? So this is a muscle that my own experience tells me that if I'm nervous, or if I'm don't feel particularly whatever, solid, or the first reaction we all do, we lock this. Right? Now, when you go left and right, this doesn't need to be locked at all. And so when you become aware enough so that you can feel that your upper arm is hanging from your shoulder, where the shoulder is a continuation of the pectoral muscle and the back, right? So that if I'm like standing up and you go to your instrument, what do you need to do? Wow. Well, okay, I'll sit down. I'll sit down. Okay, I'll sit down. And now, how do I do that? I think first that, like you show, you have to. Can you play the piano this way? And happily, again, the piano is here, right? So there is a rotation that has to happen so that you actually go this way, and then you go this way, or you can do this way and then or this way, right? And then right? So this is something that we're not aware anymore, right? But we should, because, and this is something also that I realized not so long ago. This is the rotation that the body needs to do in order to have the hand in front, right? Then when people talk about rotation, which I talk about rotation a lot when we play, when we open this way, it's not rotation, it's a de-rotation. You get, right? It doesn't matter, but I mean, so this is the first, the rotation that so you're like naturally, I mean, not many people walk around this way. Some people do, so then don't have to do anything, right? You just go like this. But the body this is the natural position of the arms, right? Okay, so you have this, and so already you have to know, okay, so when people talk about being relaxed when you go and in a piano, there's no relaxation there. Already standing up, and as you say, I have to sit, so I have to use some muscles that I'm not laying down, right? So then we do this, we do this. Okay, so what are the muscles that are making us stay like this? Bicep, okay? So if I do this with my arm, I have to use. So anytime when you are on the piano, your bicep is engaged so that you stay there. Now, so that's you can stay like this for a long time. It's actually even easier to stay like this. But can we play the piano like this? No, piano is not here either. Huh? So we have to lift the hand, and there will be again a certain tension in the elbow, so that we stay here, and so we can stay here, right? And so then you move this, and if you're going to go left and right with your.
Привет! Сейчас мы рассмотрим лучший способ для поворота видео, то есть как сделать из вертикального телефонного видео горизонтальное компьютерное, или наоборот. Для этого будем использовать простой видеоредактор. В качестве примера буду использовать видеоредактор Filme. Скачать его можно по ссылке в описании, однако похожие функции есть и в других редакторах, поэтому можете использовать ту программу, которую хотите. И сейчас вы увидите, почему именно видеоредактор – это лучший способ для поворота видео. У нас есть видео из ТикТока, оно вертикальное и предназначено для телефонов. Давайте сделаем из него горизонтально. Сначала добавляем файл в редактор плюсиком. Тут в Filme можно добавить видео и прямо с телефона напрямую. Затем плюсиком на файле добавляем видео на временную линию таймлайн. Видим, что наше видео вертикальное. Чтобы повернуть его, первым делом меняем соотношение сторон нашего проекта. Нажимаем Settings, Preferences или Настройки. Соотношение сторон выбираем не 9:16, а 16:9 и разрешение 720. Окей. Теперь вокруг исходного видео появился черный фон. И если сейчас сохранить этот проект, выходное видео уже будет горизонтальное, но с черными полями по бокам. Можно сделать красивее, поэтому двигаемся дальше. В некоторых случаях видео снято вертикально по ошибке, и его достаточно просто развернуть. Для этого выделяем сцену на таймлайне и нажимаем карандашик Edit или редактировать. Перетягиваем ползунок Rotate на 90 или 270 градусов, а потом ползунком Scale масштабируем видео до нужного размера. И теперь видео повернуто полностью. В нашем же случае видео специально было снято вертикально, и такой поворот не подходит. Тут следует воспользоваться следующим приемом. Добавляем исходное видео на таймлайн дважды, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон делаем горизонтальным 16:9. Затем перетаскиваем одно видео на вторую дорожку, чтобы одно видео было под другим. В любой из сцен заходим в редактирование, переходим на вкладку звука и убираем громкость в 0, чтобы звук шел только из одного фрагмента. Выделяем нижнее фоновое видео и нажимаем карандашик. Ползунком Scale масштабируем видео до нужного размера. И теперь следует, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон. Добавляем исходное видео на таймлайн дважды, чтобы оно повторялось. Соотношение сторон делаем горизонтальным 16:9. Затем перетаскиваем одно видео на вторую дорожку, чтобы одно видео было под другим. В любой из сцен заходим в редактирование, переходим на вкладку звука и убираем громкость в 0, чтобы звук шел только из одного фрагмента. Выделяем нижнее фоновое видео и нажимаем карандашик. Ползунком Scale растягиваем его и перемещаем. Получается как-то так. После этого переходим в фильтры и добавляем эффект размытия на фон. Или еще какой-то фильтр, который поможет зрителю не сосредоточиваться на фоне, а смотреть центральное видео. Если содержание позволяет, то можно еще чуток увеличить нашу главную сцену. Кстати, преимущество делать это в видеоредакторе в том, что вы можете еще что-то добавить в видео. Например, реакцию, текст или еще что-то. И вот получается уже горизонтальный и в то же время красивый вариант исходного видео. Если же вам нужно из горизонтального видео сделать вертикальное, то делаем все то же самое, но наоборот. Для сохранения нажимаем кнопку «Экспорт». Выбираем формат, если нужно, настраиваем разрешение и качество. Стандарт – среднее качество, Best – самое лучшее. Тут, кстати, можно настроить и сразу сгрузку на YouTube автоматом. Когда все готово, нажимаем «Экспорт», ждем, и видео готово. Вам стоит учитывать, что у меня видеоредактор в фильме активирован. В бесплатной версии он будет в ваше выходное видео добавлять еще водяной знак в углу кадра. Если же он вам понравится, приобрести полную версию можно на официальном сайте. Там часто, в том числе прямо сейчас, можно найти скидки и различные конкурсы, в которых можно выиграть как лицензии, так и различные гаджеты, например, iPad или квадрокоптер. Подробности смотрите по ссылке в описании. И если вам помогли советы из этого видео, напишите в комментариях. А также смотрите другие ролики на канале, пока без проблем. У нас тут сотни выпусков по работе с компьютером и интернетом. До новых встреч в эфире.
Your arm so that you bring your fingers where you need to be, right? So if I do this, if I play like this, okay, I can play, but after a few pages, this is gonna be perfect. Why? Because my fingers have to reach, right? So also then the sound changes, right? So it's not just that it's painful. So you have really the most important thing when you sit at your instrument and as a form of support is like, yes, you have the chair, so your butt is on the chair, you have your foot pedal, and then you have to use your torso more or less in relation to how wide you are. Okay, so if you're like this, then you would be here. You won't have to do anything. I have to move to get there so that my elbow and my hands are feeling as comfortable here as it is here. If I play, right? So maybe, so this will stay. So it's very important whenever you find a difficulty somewhere, so that your elbow doesn't go. Whenever you open your arms, and again, how much it depends, it changes depending the width of your shoulder. But you see, if I go like this, I'm going up. So when I'm higher than the keyboard, because I believe that the Chopin always say the elbow should be at the same level as the keyboard. So if I'm here, that's already somehow. So if I do this, so if I move from my hip to here, but keeping my core and keeping the the stability here and my left leg, then I'm fine. Etc. Right? So that the position, so you always have to, especially when you're looking for a certain sound, when you're looking to sustain a phrase, for example, you have to remember that it's like if you see someone, especially you can see children when they are watching TV, They're not tense, but they are intense and they're not moving. Okay, so there's the concentration is the all the extra movement. Yes, we can do it when we're done. It can be very, but if you really if you let your fingers concentrate in the contact with the key, you're not gonna have all kind of movements. You have to respect and be aware. Where's my keyboard? Where is the piano? So you have to adapt to the keyboard. And that's something that the same thing the teacher used to call it topography of the keyboard. Or if I
Ну чё? Да, да. Вот.
played octave this like this, like that. If I'm playing things on the that go, if I stay too far, I have to find an area here to play between white and black keys. So everything has to do with when you really go to the bottom of how do we move horizontally on the keyboard. Well, you have pivotation is one. So if I play this, right? If I have big hands and if I have big movement, if I don't play too fast, I'm going to use pivotation. So, or if I do this, right? So the fingers, after they release, they pivot. So that's one way. Another way is rotation. So if I go this way, right? So I'm going back to the natural position of my hand. And so this is something that anybody who works with rotation, your wrist has to be stabilized, because if you do this kind of thing, then there's nothing. Again, the movement has to come, the gesture has to come from there. So whenever it's possible, the physical gesture has to be, and this is why Chopin, for example, is such a wonderful, it's an example that his musical gesture is the same as his physical gestures. That means by reading the music, you learn how Chopin moved. And I believe that in all the composers that composed for the piano, that some of them, they were amazing pianists. And so you have to try to recreate their gesture. They're not just the fingers and the speed of the fingers and the depth, which is by itself a huge chapter. I mean, it can take a long time to explain how. But so today is just the basis that I give you. But so the goal is when you know your instrument, you begin to feel the musical gesture, right, as a physical gesture or a pianistical gesture, whatever you want. Now you have composers that compose things that are not necessarily for the piano. So you don't have necessarily an easy, and sometimes there will be chaos. For example, Schumann is one composer that I find it's difficult sometimes to adapt to his gesture, because the character of the music changes every bar sometimes, right? So the same thing when the same idea when you move to composer from the 20th century who has now this instrument. This becomes much more a question of vertical. Sometimes the music then the vertical wins over the horizontal. Okay, so that you have much more like a percussion instrument. Right? So when you play things that are whatever until even Debussy, I believe, had, I mean, yes, there was a piano, but it was a very light instrument that he worked with, like Pleyel, Gaveau. The French pianos are much lighter, So the pianistic and the physical aspect of it is something that you have to think. Okay, how do you produce the sound? It will be, for example, a very fast attack, a long pedal. So that will be part of the language of that composer. If you play Prokofiev, you have something much more vertical, much more angular a lot of the time. And sometimes you have huge melodies that are like, could be considered like Chopin melody. So once you have the approach with your instrument, then you can begin to see, okay, what movement will create the sound, the physical gesture, is to create the musical gesture that I want. So it's not something that it's a little bit like playing with Play-Doh. You have to feel with your instrument that it is an instrument. Your fingers are an instrument of, for your brain, your ear, and your heart. But I can be highly intelligent and I hear very well, I have a world of listening inside and I have a heart of gold. If I don't have the physical connection with the whatever one calls, people call it technique. For me, it's not a question of technique. It's a connection with how do I connect all these things with a physical way to play the piano. This, I think, is something that we always have to remember. In general, so I don't know why, but I think because we are all loner, we practice alone most of the time, right? We don't have much contact with other pianists. And this is, like a place like here, it's wonderful because you can begin to, ask each other questions or exchange fingerings. Fingerings is another thing that I think is extremely connected to that. And so a fingering would be wonderful for a person and maybe not, but sometimes to hear, oh, this person is using this fingering. Okay, if I use this fingering, what is the musical thing that I'm going to get that I don't have as this? Sometimes you have way of practicing certain things, way of thinking, right? But that's something with pianists that we have to be aware and not stay in our, cubicle where we practice and that's it. And so another thing that I think is not directly concerned with the technique of the piano, but the ear is, that I think, again, for all of you that I've heard, you play the instrument, but you're not really saying too much because a lot of you're very concerned about the playing, right? So you have to make sure that you're listening so that you know what you want to hear when you go to the piano. So that listening to a lot of Beethoven symphony, Beethoven string quartet, orchestral piece, to have an idea, okay, I'm playing a Debussy prelude. Do I know how it has to sound? No, you have to know, you have heard and really listen to what's the sound. It's necessarily a gesture, but it's like, okay, how at the piano do I imitate the sound of an oboe, or more a clarinet, or a cello, or a violin, or a singer, right? So the again, you can be absolutely wonderful in all the areas that you need, but if you don't really know how to use your instrument, this instrument, and this instrument, and this instrument, you're not gonna be able to. The people will not respond necessarily. Right? So often I find that everyone has something to say, but they don't always know how to say it. And so for me, this whole aspect of physical aspect of playing, or pianistic, or whatever you want to use the word, is extremely important to also cultivate that. Not just but it's not enough. You have this, and then you have the ear, and you have just to. There are many things. Like I said in the beginning, it's a tool, right? But it's an important tool. Okay. So now, anybody has anything that they want to ask me whatever it's a passage, whatever it's something that they have a question,
Bye.
I'll be happy to answer any question.
You spoke about the mouse in the answer there between the fingers.
Yeah, you can check if you look in the, you can even see on the web, whenever.
I already read a book actually about this, but I didn't really understand. I read it just about stability of the hand. But so are they connected with both fingers?
No, I'm not talking about the tendon. The tendon that we're talking about, there are some. I personally don't think that it's important at all. What is important is the muscle. They are separate muscles here and here, right? So it's the muscle basically that if you have a strong muscle like here, you see you have almost everyone has these two bones really. So what it is the strong muscle underneath, right? But it's a muscle that goes just over the articulation. So it begins, I think, somewhere around.
Алло? Чё, куда идешь ты, я не понял. Куда пошла? Ну, все, есть. Ну ладно. Это и есть на самом деле. Так нет, он что, помнишь меня, что ли? Да, вот я про себя говорил, на дороге. Ну, да. Вот это мой житель. Да, понял, все просто же. Что это значит? Нет, он себе так думает. Я сегодня да, понимаю. Она тебе просто что-то... Да, понимаю. Я вообще не знаю. Что я тогда включу? Чуть-чуть. Джи-джи такой. Малёха такой зазема. Ась. конца. Ну, народу как меньше. Вот это и да. Позволили себе. Ты знаешь. Производительность свойств. Производительность свойств. Ну ладно. А что ничего нет?
Also, basically, that if you have a strong muscle, like here,
Да
you see,
наоборот, это да наоборот. Так нет. Нет. Ну да, вот. Ну это есть. Ну вот это есть. Да, закрыть нет. Да, да. Да, 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 да. Да, да, да.
Бой стадион, черная пятница, настоящий.
Наоборот. Да, я не знаю, как я это буду. Надо, так нет. Да, вот это все. Да. Ну нет, так что за бред? Ну, себе не будет. Нет. Да надо, господи. Ну да. Вот это и есть. Да, я говорю тебе тоже. Да. Да. Ну нет, о себе подумай. Вдохни. Вдохни. Ну, это не тем самым, как такие. Вот это. Я должен быть. Thank you, Navy.